Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance at Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. We've crawled from under the hood to in the cab, that's right. Ram Revival Sunday Fun Day here, and we've got a lot going on. I just showcased our LMC Dash replacement. Not a skin, not an overlay, not a plastic mat, not a carpeted mat, not something with silicone or glue down, but a full dash replacement. I'm super excited to get that thing in again. It may not be exact, it might be a little off in terms of grain or color, but it will be a big upgrade over this, right? And my dash is actually in really good shape, believe it or not. Again, original owner, 2001 Ram here. 20 years later, to just have those cracks, which you, in terms of second gen Rams, that's minor. I mean, that's like pristine condition, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get it taken care of. Instrument bezel just has this one right there, which has been there, I think, longer than anything on the dash, interestingly enough. But spent a lot of time in the interior, kind of going through the quirks on the second gen Ram, and then we stepped outside, took a look at the LMC stuff. This is sort of like a 2- or 3-fold project for us. Number one, we're obviously replacing the bezel and the dash. We need to get the dash out of the truck in order to do that. We could probably leave it in, but that almost seems like I'd spend more time trying to leave it in than I would if I just took it out. Now, taking the dash out terrifies me, not necessarily detaching from the firewall, but getting the whole lower section and the substructure, I don't know. I'm assuming if this plastic was bad, right, the bezel and the dash top, I assume the bottom, and I assume everything under the dash that's plastic, like mounting points, is also equally frail. That's what terrifies me. I would recommend, as much as I am a solo artist, and I very well may do this by myself somehow, but I would recommend a second set of hands just for extracting the dash assembly from the truck so you don't break something. Like if this all shatters, that's fine, we're replacing it. If the lower dash assembly or plastic hiding behind this goes and cracks and breaks and separates into thousands of pieces, that's bad. No one makes that. We're going to have a really hard time sourcing some from a wrecking yard that's in better shape. And it would require a lot of my time with a plastic welder. So if you can get a second set of hands to pull this thing out, do it. Also, I think we're going to come in and do a double din. More on that in a later video. When we have the dash out, it makes sense to do the heater core. I've already got the replacement one. We're going to get that swapped out. Maybe we cut in and do the blend door just as preventative maintenance. It hasn't been an issue yet, but who knows? You know, if it's going to fail, it'll probably be right after we do a heater core, a dash replacement, and a stereo head unit without addressing it. So with that said, this will be the official kickoff to part one, which I guess is getting the dash out. So we're going to try to assess this, figure out what we need to do. With an automatic, it's very important there is a gear selector lever, right? You can kind of see that orange tab behind the P for park, right? As we cycle down with this lever here, we're in reverse, neutral, drive, 2 and low. Gotta make sure we don't break that off. That's the one thing I'm concerned about. Also, there's always some idiotic vacuum setup and linkage crud with heater boxes and air conditioners. I typically don't have to mess with them with old cars, so that stuff's still kind of a little green on that area, so we'll probably be careful. But take your time, label everything, bag and tag it. We do have some new hardware. I'm not sure what all it covers, but I'm going to do my best to document this with the sizes this time for my own records and hopefully your benefit. I'll eventually write it all up, which in my opinion is way easier for you to skim an article than a video, but to each their own. And we'll take it from there. So I'm thinking what we're going to do, there are essentially 2 screws, I guess, behind the kick panels, and we don't even have to take them out, the bolts. We just kind of back them out and the whole assembly will rotate. Obviously, in order for it to rotate, we got to pull these 5 craters, right, you know, where the cracks all start. We got to get those out. This is why I've always talked about needing a long extension, and I've got some new tools we're going to put into use here before I even get to do the tool haul on them. That's right. For all of you watching from the tool side of the channel, I picked up a Stahlwille quarter drive set, and we're going to throw that in the mix. I might have to combine it with another extension, truth be told, but we'll hit those possibly last. Guess we'll probably start with the kick panel, the rocker sill plates, this cover down here, which hey, maybe I can sell that sanitizer to finance some of this. That's going to cover up our airbag stuff, so we'll need to get it out so we can disconnect that. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of electrical connections. Most of them should be idiot-proof. Like when we take everything apart, if there's 19 total connections, I'm thinking that they only fit in one slot. I could be mistaken, but we'll kind of assess it as we go to town. So, with that said, I think I'm going to develop a game plan which begins with getting a fan because it's about 102 degrees outside. So that's where we stand, and it's going to be a journey. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, we'll probably do 2 videos, removal in part 1, installation in part 2. And again, we'll see if I can maybe get some help to get the thing out because I don't want to crack anything that's not already cracked. So stay tuned. We will formulate our strategies and we will be right back. Alright, I realize the fan's blowing on you, my apologies, but this is the passenger side kick panel. You're going to need a number 2 Phillips. I'd recommend some Needlenose or something. You can turn it by hand as well, but our little sill plate right here, you just have to loosen that screw because you'll note it's kind of, this isn't torn, that's how the factory designed it. It's just kind of like a slip fit. And then this center pin centers it literally on the factory sheet metal, and then that is the clip. So if you come in and get your hand back here in the back corner and pull out, again, don't try to pull forward, but pull in towards the center console, that will release that clip. Then you just slide it out. This is actually nested, like you can kind of see in that tan piece. That's why these are super awkward. They're like in adhesive. And I think there's like foam in the rocker, all kinds of crud. So they're just always a pain in the butt. You can kind of see the threads are gummed up real bad. That's why the needle nose might come in handy, but we will do the same thing on the driver's side, literally no different. And then I think what I'll do is come in right here. You can see those 2 screw slots. Pull those out, that'll open that area up. Also, get rid of all your stuff, including in the glove box. It'll just make things a lot easier for you. There's your source of the noise, by the way. But right here you can see again just 2 number 2 Phillips screws. That'll kind of give you an idea what they look like. Should you misplace them, you'll have to replace them. The cover then, I think we can just slide it off like so. Nothing too crazy there. It looks like it's gasketed. And if you ever restore one, that's the number online. It's like 1326 for one. There are the screw holes. That clip there is the airbag module, right? It's very, very critically important that you understand this. Before you do any of this, disconnect your battery, wait. The factory or the Chilton's manual says 2 minutes. Disconnect it and the capacitor to discharge. I'd do it, like if you're going to do this Saturday morning, disconnect it Friday night, just let it drain down. Mine's obviously been disconnected for a long time, so we're going to come in, we should be able to pull this stuff out. Not quite sure what all we'll have to do, probably the 2 nuts. You can see the red clip, need to release all that, but I think we'll come in now, and I'm going to get this sanitizer off my camera cord, and I'm going to probably pull the glove box, so I'll clean this out and see how it comes out. Alright, I have no idea what that is, but the glove box is out. Essentially all I did is I just kind of pressed in on this side, and that seemed to free it up, and then you can kind of see our plastic pins. We just lifted off, kind of bringing the glove box out. This is the one that was broken, sort of right here, and I'll see if I can maybe fix that. This foam that looks like it's totally out of place is actually glued there, I guess, for like a rattle stop. And check this out. I don't know that you can see that too well, but looks like this was assembled September 11th of 2000. That's right, I guess 1 calendar year before the attack on the World Trade Center there. But we've got a couple of new screws here we can contend with. We've also got some electrical connections back there. But I'm going to wipe my hand off and clean this up, get it out of the floorboard real quick. Alright, it's another update point for you. Again, I cannot stress enough, use quality tools like these Wiha screwdrivers. Make this job much easier. 3 screws have been removed since we last spoke. We've got 1 right behind where the glove box was. You've got your latch in the middle. We've got the second one right from that cavity. And then the 3rd would be right up there where we had that gap between the latch. So I'm thinking that, yes, we'll drop this trim piece down for us. You can kind of see it intact there. Again, I just do all of this as I go. and that opens up a lot of territory for us here. So this again would be the airbag module. We've got lots of number 2 Phillips. We've got 3 in a row here. We've got the 2 on the latch. We've got 3 here. Looks like this is the outer plastic, and then I think that would be the inner plastic mirrored on this side. And then I'm assuming the steel bracket probably goes to the airbag. Again, we'll try to figure that out, but I'm just kind of taking it as we go and just winging it in all honesty. So as I see things and think I understand them, we start taking them apart. So it's working so far, so we'll continue on that front. Check that out. You'll be able to see a little bit better now thanks to the strategically mounted factory light bar support, right? So if I come in here, you can see our date, September 11th. You can also see, again, these screws here we're gonna leave because we want the bottom half of the dash to be intact. But right there, those 2 that clearly go up to our airbag module, we're gonna need to take those out. This might get to stay as a support piece, I'm not sure, but those 2 will come. The red felt Velcro, that's going to indicate like important airbag type stuff behind it. We've got some electrical connectors back there. There's the heater box. Heater core looking kind of crusty, but it's also that type of material, so we shall see. But the light will help you out. Again, just so you understand, kind of back there you can see where the clip came from. That's the bolt that will hinge back the whole entire dash with. So I'm going to start pulling, I think, those 2 and these 2 screws and see what happens, and maybe if we can get a better idea how that's going to come out of there. You could probably leave the airbag in, but it's also probably heavy, so we'll figure it out. If I want to leave it in, I'll put it back in. If I decide to take it out, we'll go that route. So we'll be back. Alright, so every soft trim tool I own is in the truck with me here. And I'll tell you what, we had our first stray piece of plastic come tumbling down right there. I already know exactly what it is. This clip is super, super loose, right? And that would be the bottom of that. How do I know? I went and referenced this area on our brand new dash, which is a perk of waiting for the part to come in. The issue I've got, right, I don't believe anyone remans or repops this cover, okay? And so I don't want to break it. We have the issue where I know that the top dash, which is also the structure that this pins into with the little push pins, is extremely weak. So I'm at the point of, you know, typically like if you didn't have a concern about soft breaking plastic, you know, and structure pieces, you just come in and you just rip this really hard and everything typically goes well, even though it feels like you're going to break everything. With this, I know we're going to break stuff, but I don't want to break the clips on this piece because, again, I don't know that I can purchase it from anywhere. So I'm taking my time, but I believe there's going to be 5 clips. Again, the 2 on the ends are both really loose. This plastic piece is, I'm 99% sure that's what that is. This one was loose too. Then there seems to be 3 more. I've come in with that flat blade up there trying to kind of press down. They seem to have the metal tabs on these clips. I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm just going to continue on it, but I didn't want to just take a big jump and show you like, oh, what a cakewalk, because this is a pain in the butt. It's always going to be a pain in the butt. It's even worse, again, when you're trying to keep something from breaking. We're replacing the dash, yes, but that does not include this piece right here. So it seems pretty pliable. I'm inclined to think it would escape intact. I don't know about the clips. And then this, we already know we've lost one side here, which I think was broken ahead of time in all honesty. But there's probably going to be more carnage. But this is sort of the chaos that's happening. And I'm going to continue on and see what happens. Alright, I am pretty scared we're going to break something. Again, it seems very pliable, this piece, but the clips look to be out. I'm thinking it's maybe one of the 3 in the middle that are giving me the issue. Just in the event, again, this seems to have no bearing at all on anything I'm doing, but just to see if it helps any, I broke these free. These would be 10mm bolts, 1, 2, and 3 where our ratchets hanging. This, by the way, is my brand new Stahlwille kit, which I've not even made a tool haul on yet, so we're going to have some experience with it before we introduce the tool. Also of note, I have a scribe down there in the floorboard. Anytime I take a latch off, I like to scribe around it. Again, it's kind of idiot proof with the screws. There's not a whole lot of leeway there, but If it's off just a little bit and you've got the scribe lines there, you can kind of go to town. Might be painting this, it sort of depends what condition the lower dash is in. So I'm gonna slightly loosen everything here. Again, I don't think it has any bearing on it. You can see it was the 2 tabs we identified. It's just these metal clips at the top. I'm taking every precaution I can to keep this piece intact. Alright, so as predicted, that did absolutely nothing to help us here, but at least it's peace of mind. If we do break this, we know we took all the precaution. I want to point out, you can see my scribe line. Well, you kind of can see my scribe lines. I also want to point out on the bracket itself, it is so small and drilled perfectly, I don't think we'll have any alignment issues. That said, better safe than sorry. And I also want to point out how important it is to keep the hardware divided. These 2 are going to be my interior. Those 2 sets there, the screws go here and here. The 3 bolts, I like to keep everything sequential. If you need to pin them in cardboard, if you need storage containers, bag and tag, whatever, I'm leaving them in place because I'm hoping I get this thing out and then I'll just set them down in their mounting points. But always take that extra time, it'll save you time in the long run. But back to pulling on this and praying we don't break anything that's not replaceable. Alright, so I have every clip out of the top. I've released them with a screwdriver, did my best not to break anything. I don't think we did. I still can't get this to pull out, which was just racking my mind why it wouldn't come forward. I didn't know if there's like an internal clip, like in the center top or something. That's why I was down here looking from the floorboard up. As I did that, you know, I was thinking, well, maybe if I just like push the airbag up, it'll kick out. Well, there's apparently 2 more bolts back here. You can kind of see that black bracket there and over there. Bolts for the airbag. I'm gonna take those out. They look like they're also 10mm. And I'm thinking then maybe I can come grab this bracket and push up, and that will allow this to roll out. I'm thinking it might be like like a built-in hinge, not a mechanical one, but just like a plastic into material hinge type of thing, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna try that, and if that doesn't work, I don't really know how to get this out. So I'm gonna pull those 2 bolts and see if we get lucky. Alright, well, things I wish I knew before I started. Apparently the airbag in this piece are 1 unit. That's not something I would have known. And, maybe they can detach, you know, when they're out, but I've got this pulled away from the mounting points a little bit, and it's just recessed itself. I guess I'll need 2 hands, but I'm thinking if you come in and you take all the screws out like we did, you've done it correctly. We will have to get this apart out of the dash structure, but I guess maybe it's cohesive with the airbag, like 1 unit assembly type of a deal. But we would have these 2 here, right, that kind of hold this in place, the trim piece, and then these 3, the 3 bolts here, 2 underneath. I think it's just going to be a unit. I'll get it out and we'll have an understanding of exactly what's going on. Alright, well, so many answers right here. So apparently this is 1 unit, which I did not know. That would have saved me some grief right there, wouldn't it? So essentially the 5 10mm bolts, 3 across that brace there, 2 on the inside of the glove box, if you will, kind of coming up and under. Big thing, you've got this yellow convoluted tubing, right? Anytime you see yellow, it's probably important, so you're going to need to disconnect from there. There is a little push pin in there, and mine slid forward dramatically. I was able to catch it, and then it was really easy to unpin, is the good news. I can also confirm right here we had our 5 slots just like I thought we would, but you'll note when I get here to this 5th one, which you can see it fairly well, there's no plastic on the bottom of that. That's because it's down in the floorboard. I truthfully believe that was broke ahead of time. This airbag's not heavy, but it gets heavy when you're holding it with your non-dominant hand in a strange position. So I'm gonna set this off to the side, then we'll come in and assess this with the light reposition. Alright, so I've got everything repositioned here. Again, 1 piece. Would have been nice to know that ahead of time, but it is what it is. Take a look here though, this crack from our 4th from the driver's side, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, stress fractured all the way up here to this mounting area. These other provisions are actually still intact. I was surprised, of course, this one is where it broke off. Correctly identified the plastic. You can see our ductwork, the foam gasketing there. This duct tape here, if you were curious about that, this goes back to high school, back when I was like 15, 16. And I've got that bulb cover I think you can see it right there, that funky looking blue thing. This is before you had like LEDs, and this is when they were just coming out with like a couple of like street scene items with colored interior lights, which were usually red and yellow, unfortunately. But this whole truck was treated to those. We will probably upgrade to LEDs now. At the time, that was the best I could do, and that duct tape was critical to keeping that bulb cover from falling off every time you open the glove box, which defeats the purpose of having cool accent lighting, right? Anyway, I'm about out of card space here, but we've got access now to some more screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Literally just cut me off there, but 5 and 6. So we got 6 new screws that clearly hold the top dash structure in place. So we'll check that out. Not sure, we may migrate over to the driver's side, but again, had I known this was one piece, I would have saved an awful lot of time. It's probably also easier if you disconnect the airbag when it's in place before you even attempt to remove it. Again, that was kind of just something that we were unaware of at the time. Not the end of the world, but again, it probably would be easier. Also wanted to point out, I did disconnect that. You slide that red pin on the top towards the passenger side door, and then you can just press down on the yellow tab and shimmy it out. So that is where we stand on the passenger side. Again, you can kind of see back in there to our heater core, heater box, everything in that area. Probably got some connections here we'll need to dismantle, but we may move over to the driver's side real quick. Alright, so here we are. We've progressed sort of, I guess, over to the driver's side of the truck now, and what I'm going to do is just start pulling off this instrument bezel. Now, the good news going for us, number 1, it's already cracked, as you can see right there. Number 2, we have a replacement, which means if we break it even more, it's not that big of a deal. But I think it'll be a good starting point, and again, we should be able to just pull out on this one. I don't think there's going to be anything funky like on that side, and it should just be some series of clips we have to get free, and then we will start probably diving in more so on the other intricacies of the driver's side. So let's get started. Literally 2 seconds, that's about what I have invested in this. And I wish the rest of the job would have gone this smooth. Now, we do have some issues down in here. I'll have to probably like shimmy it to get it past the steering column and the cluster. Could probably tilt down if we want to, but nothing broke. Everything came out super easy, and on top of that, I didn't hear what sounded like any plastic from the dash structure breaking, which is a bonus. So I'm gonna get this out of the way. We'll see what things look like and take it from there. We tilted, that's right. One thing I should mention, should have thought of ahead of time. I needed my key so I could put it down into drive. Just to get the bezel out, probably truthfully could have like scratched it out, but if you put it in drive and tilt the column down, you're home free. And check out what a difference just moving that bezel makes. That's right, you can see all of the felt anti-squeak stuff going down, right? And then coming in over here, you can see how all this is structured. Again, tons and tons of screws here. So that's our airbag control. We've got 3 number 2 Phillips. The little cubby hole, it looks like we have 3, possibly 4. I'm not sure. That bottom one may go down to the cup holder structure. Radio that looks smaller than a 10mm, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't know if it's SAE or metric at this point, but it looks like you got a low mount and a high mount. I'll probably pull the radio ahead of time just so we can have it out. I also just realized I should probably have ejected the CD that's in it. Interesting. I think there's one in there. I don't know that I thought of doing that ahead of time. Right there, heater controls nicely highlighted for us with a white backdrop. You got 2 Phillips at the bottom, 2 at the top. You can see a little plastic centering pin. That sucker there, I guess, was a clip or a screw that doesn't exist anymore. Instrument bezel itself tucked in there quite nicely. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll pull that out as well. Who knows? Again, the white is nice for contrast. We've got the electrical stuff there. Again, pretty much anytime we start pulling any of these items, we're going to have some wiring we want to disconnect. Make note of that. Tag it, whatever you need to do. But this is a good starting point here in this section, so we will get going with what we've got available. Alright, so I took some time to make some notes here. Going to start dismantling the rest of the truck now. And essentially, headlight switch, we have 3 number 2 Phillips screws. They are all equal length. We've got 1 at the top, 2 down here at the bottom. When we then slide this out, you'll note the harness taped up nicely back there. It splits off into 2 or 3 connectors. So we've got a safety lock here. It looks like this is going to be black and yellow, yellow and black. that would be headed that direction, and then the big cluster in the middle we'll kind of take a look at. But again, it should be idiot proof because we've got 2 wires and a whole mess of wires. So if there's any other connector, I don't see it just yet, but let's go ahead and pop these out. Alright, so there she is again. Not gonna be easy to screw that up. I guess someone might, but as long as you see everything good, you're just fine. You got like what, 8 or 16 connectors versus 2. Should be home free. There's what you're looking at. Again, if you screw that up, you probably got more problems than just that. So the good news there, again, back in the day, you know, this might have been like 2 8-pin banks or something. You could easily cross them. This should be pretty much foolproof. There's our headlight switch. If you needed to replace it, that's how you do that. What we'll do now, I guess, I'm still kind of torn on the instrument cluster. I don't know if I'm going to pull it or not. And it may just turn out to be the big number 2 Phillips screws. The small ones you see there might just hold the lens. So I'm thinking like anything with white has a centering pin, and then the number 2 Phillips. That might get that out of our way, but we probably need to disconnect our gear selector. That said, right here we're going to come in again. It seems to me that that should have been a screw, but there's not one. I've never had the truck part, so I'm not sure what's up there, but we'll go ahead. We got 2 at the top, 2 down below, so I guess we'll go ahead and start dissecting the heater control. Alright, so we've got the heater controls out, and I tell you what, not hard to get them out, but it's going to be really hard to disconnect everything. Reason for that, the factory, while they give you a little bit of slack back there, you just don't get much. And what I'm going to do for you is kind of slide the camera down, let you see what we're working with, and then note far on the opposite side we've got some wires plugged in vertically through a connector. We're going to attempt to get all that out and then document it. So I'm not sure what's going on up here. That's like a super funky kind of amber translucent piece. I'm thinking those are nuts holding it on in place, so we shall see, but I'll try to make some headway on this and document it as best I can for you. Alright, couple of important things. Number one, we've popped a few connections out of here. One of them just had 2 pins. This vertical one on the side, you can see the tab right there. We forced it up with our little Vera clip, chisel driver without the chisel end, right? And what I want to do is make note of this in case you twist it. Going from the top down, you're going to have orange, light green, a very pale pink, light green, blue. Then your bottom 2 is kind of like black with a weird yellow tracer and black with an orange tracer. Those bottom 3 look to be significantly thicker wire than the top ones, but again, that is important to note. So again, from the top down on your control, you're going to have like defrost, routing of the air, you know, feet, head, face, whatever. Second knob is going to be your fan. Third is going to be your temperature control. Going from the top down as it would be installed, that's how this is oriented. Our little 2 connector fringe right here, looks like we have yeah, I guess it's 3 wires. There's like a dark blue, a black and orange tracer, and then like a light blue with a yellow tracer. And then there is that connector there that was sort of funky, but if you just come in and push tab through it, you can get it out. I don't have the hand to make it happen, but this guy right here, I thought, man, that looks like a 10mm. Let me grab a wrench that's actually designed for stuff like this, and sure enough, this little Hazet 440 electric wrench that we picked up, the 10mm, just to have it to sample. Look at that. That's pretty much what these are intended for. It's not necessarily what I bought them for, but they're going to work great for stuff like this. That's just kind of like a speed clip type of a thing, you know, like an emblem, if you will. And there's probably a better way to disconnect these, but right now that's all I know to do, so it's what I'm going to do, and sadly I need 2 hands to make it happen. So I'll get back on this and we'll see where we're at. Alright, so strange connections there. I guess vacuum based or something. I don't know. It's really different than what I'm accustomed to with old cars. But we've got this disconnected. You can kind of see all our connectors. Again, it should be fairly foolproof. I'm going to set this down in my lap so I can show you this thing. We took the 2 little speed nuts off, which again, that wrench is like what it was built for, so that worked out surprisingly well for me. But this should be foolproof as well, the way they've got that one staggered on the bottom. But that's all that is. We now have it out of our way, and we're ready, I guess, to move to the stereo. That's it. I may run in and make myself some supper to get a drink. So we'll be back. This ain't going anywhere, that's for certain. So making good progress here. Hasn't been too difficult. We've learned a little bit, and we will keep going here in just a little bit. Alright, so back after supper, got the fan back on. It is hot in this place still. And the important thing we did right here. So, went ahead and before I did anything, just to be safe, I kicked that over to off. Note, everything was disconnected and removed. Still suppose this would have been a potential issue, but again, no motor, half of the electronics. Just quickly reconnected the battery so we could hit eject. Everything went according to plan. Going to avoid the steering column for a little while, just even though the battery was just barely touched together. We're going to move on over here, probably hit that airbag and then the stereo. So if we come in and do this one first, we got 3 Phillips screws there. Looks like that bottom one will actually go to that cubby hole. So we will start removing those 3 screws, see what kind of connections we have. Alright, so we got it disconnected. There is like 0 play in that. I'm over here on the driver's side, so my quick solution, we're going to come down and take this out and see if we can then maybe get back into whatever's connecting it. Again, for this section, we've got number 1, number 2, and number 3, possibly 4, I can't really see. That may just be for the dash actually, so at least 3. This I want to say, and this one might be holding the cup holder in place. We'll have to see. Not sure you have to remove that. I may. The more we can minimize our chances of breaking something that's not remanufactured, the better. So let's try to get this little cubby out of here and see what happens. Check this out. So we remove the cubby, right? That's where I keep a door opener, pins, whatever. Look how deep that sucker is, right? You have no idea. You just always see it in kind of a dark abyss. There's no lighting in there, which we could add one. But you just always see this dark abyss. Look at that. That's some serious depth to that sucker. So this does give us better access back there. My apologies, the light isn't on, but just run with me. I'm thinking when I get to the passenger seat, we'll be able to kind of see the connection there a little bit better. And with this out of the way, we may come in with our beloved Matchbox 20 safely extracted. We may go ahead and get this. Fear not my cassette fans, we have no cassettes that will be left in this factory head unit. So it looks like that might be 10, it might be SAE though, so I might go grab some other sockets and we'll see what fits the best. But I believe we're going to be pulling my beloved factory cream of the crop, top of the line, premium cassette and compact disc head unit. So let's go make that happen. Alright, so I grabbed some Vera sockets and tried the 3/8, it and the 10mm, almost identical to 10. Felt a little tighter, it might just be because it was 12 point, I don't know. But we removed right there a bottom screw or bolt, and then right here was a side bolt. That's about all that I see. And yeah, that's it. So she's going to come forward. Now, I've never had the factory head unit out. I know that there will obviously be a lot of wiring behind it. Should be clipped in, but the issue is I can tell that's kind of going to be heavy and at an awkward angle with the center console anyway. So I'm going to get this thing out. I'll try to snap some pictures, and then if possible I'll showcase the connectors before we disconnect them. But going to go ahead and get this out. That way if we do reuse this, if we want to keep it as an heirloom or a potential throw-in for on down the road, we won't run the risk of like striking any knobs, breaking anything off, anything stupid. So plus it'll be less weight we have to worry about when we snake this whole assembly out of the truck. So without further ado, I'll get started on that. If you're wondering why it seems darker, it's because the sun has set. Doors face east on the shop, and it's getting dark outside, so I'm gonna have to go put my screen down, lose my breeze and a little bit of the cool air. But this is what it looks like as we lower it down. The factory in this instance gave us a lot of slack, especially compared to the heater control unit, which was terrible. But this is what we have. This is what I want to document real quick for my records and possibly your convenience. So over on the far passenger side, we'll have what'll be our antenna tucking in. We've got that little connector there. It looks like a black wire coming in and out. Then we've got a long multicolored one highlighted with an orange wire. Orange and pink, probably what we want to pay attention to there. Next up, you can see we've got the tracers with the light green wire, that bundle. And then the farthest over on the left hand or driver's side looks like we've got white and black tracer and something purple. So should be pretty difficult to cross these. Again, another way to remember it: white connector, black connector, gray connector, whatever that black wire is, probably just a good ground, and then the antenna. So I'm going to work on getting these out because, again, I'm a one-man show. It's pretty awkward holding this stuff, and you do not want to just let it dangle and, you know, pull all your cables out. So I'm going to make that happen. We'll take a look at it when we get it out. Alright, my night may be coming to an end because the battery light's flashing, sadly. But right here, as anticipated, we have the antenna. It simply pulls out. This, I believe, is probably just a ground. It just slides off the tab on the case of the head unit. Next up, facing out, you'll have the clip right there. You can kind of see the raised spot, so it is going to face the passenger side. That's how you'll orient this in terms of the wire configuration. The black one right beside it is the opposite. There's no tab on the passenger side. It's actually going to be on the driver's side. I think you can kind of see the raised spot there. And then this guy right here, a little tiny dude on the end, there's just kind of a slight little clip right there, kind of in that track that you can press down. That releases it. I've got the head unit over here in my lap. If I can maneuver everything around, which is quite difficult as a one-man show, kind of limited by the console here. But that's where we're at. I'll see, maybe we can come over to the passenger side, bust that out. I'm going to need to shut the garage door and stuff here in just a little bit, but made pretty good headway here for the limited time we had. And then we'll come in, might even pull the cluster out, we'll see. Before I do that, I really need to remember to get that gear selector switch, our little orange tab, if you will, out of there. So that's where we're at. We'll see where we go, and we will pick it up here. Alright, still fighting the battery light, but I think I found where this harness would terminate, which would be back there. If you can kind of see something that looks to be fluorescent yellow, I believe that's where it is. Now, getting my hand back in there and being able to see at the same time is a different story. And wanting to protect as much of what's not repopped as possible, that including our cup holders, I think I'm going to try to take the cup holders out. So, best I can tell, there's 6 Phillips screws. You've got 1 and 2. Obviously, that's going to branch down into this area. You've got 3 and 4 we're sort of looking at. And then coming down, you've got 5 right sort of on the side of the center lever, and 6 mirrored on the opposite side. That's all I'm seeing. That's all I think there is to it. There may be some hinge at the bottom, sort of like our glove box. I'm not 100% sure. But that should open this up and let me have better access back there. It's also one less item we could potentially screw up when we try to snake the dash out. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll see if it gives us access to easily pull that, and we'll take it from there. Alright, so again, going against the battery light, we have the light that illuminates. I think that only comes on at nighttime or when you have your dome lights on. I don't think it's like a, you know, this opens and it's on a mercury switch or something. Because I do believe that lit up, and I could be mistaken, but I think that's how it goes. Now you can see right there, 82900 15950, some numbers on the back. 6 screws is all that held this in, and then on the bottom, you can see kind of the tab location there and in the opposite corner. And if I snake all this around, you can see right there is a tab and there is the other tab. So that's out of our way. It did open up a little bit of space there. I'm going to have to move the light to kind of see if we have a better view. But we did get that light bulb out. I'll probably pull the bulb so we don't crush it and have shattered glass. But the cup holders are out, and now I just need to get them out of the truck. I'm dangling precariously halfway out of the cab myself, so I'm going to reposition and see if we can't continue on here with this battery. Alright, so I'm still kind of tucked up in here under the dash, and what I think I'm going to do, right here, this bracket where these 2 connectors are backed up to, they both have the safety lock, which you see right there, right? And I have been breaking my fingernails, can't get a screwdriver in, you name it, it's all failed. And what I think I'm going to do is just knock those push pins through. I've felt around in here, that's why my hands are so rusty, and this bracket, I believe, is spot welded or riveted to the main structure of the dash, the metal, if you will. It's not a plastic tab, it's metal. And so I think we're just going to pop those push pins out, and that'll make it way easier to, 1, turn the connectors and disconnect them, and 2, I think even if we pull this all out, that'll open up some space for us moving forward. So that's what I'm going to do, is just get these little push pins popped out, and then we'll be able to disconnect the two connectors there and take it from that point. Alright, I'm at a totally awkward angle here, but I figured this out. As I was pressing that out, it was sliding up the connector. You can see it's kind of freed now. There's a rail on there. It's just like some other stuff I've seen in late model stuff. Keep in mind, you know, electrical stuff I do is like 60s and 70s. But this is what I could not get to pop free from the other side, so I've got to get that clip over, and we'll be able to press and release. Same thing on that connector. I think if I just slide up or down, I'm not sure which one will get it free. So fighting the battery light, but that's where we're at. Sometimes it's the little things that just really slow you down. So you can see the cover there, and you'll note there's nothing behind it aside from a stubby, a Hazet number 2 socket head, and then a Wiha offset, which is truly the ultimate stubby, which was required to dismantle the faceplate. You can see we got 3 number 2 Phillips from the module back there, which I dropped down to confirm that it does in fact go to this stupid thing. And what I want to show you, where the black dot was from the factory, which faces towards the driver's side when it's mounted with those pins, that coincides with like a funky brown with a green tracer, and then purple would be second. The side opposite that does not have the black dot is going to have like the green and the white wire, and I finally have that stupid thing disconnected. And right back in this cubby, you can kind of see this is the airbag deal, which we should be able to just freelance that thing, I think. So that's cool. We got rid of that stupid thorn in our side, but now we get to go to the next one, which is a similar connector that I actually can't even get to slide off of that rail, which again I think is spot welded or a structural part of the dash. So I'm gonna work on that. Battery light still flashing. Sometimes you just gotta do ridiculous things that seem excessive to you know, make the smallest of advancements in life. So that's what we're gonna continue on, and we'll see how it goes. Oh yeah, that one took about 10 seconds, so got lucky there. I just came in, opened up with the not having the yellow connector in my way. I was able to actually have my left hand coming over here through where the glove box was. I was able to push very, very easily, in fact, which is how it's supposed to be, that red safety, which was not the case on this yellow connector. That one was a nightmare, but on this one I was able to slide it over. This is a very, very long plug right there, but we got her out, and so we should be home free on that front now. So we'll probably have to contend with that at a later point in time. We'll see how all the wires turn out to stack out, but surprised the battery hadn't died, but I'm thinking we're pretty close to done on the passenger side, so we can kind of step back over there. I think what I'm gonna do is come in, we'll probably pull our cigarette lighter and emergency fire starter, as I would prefer it. Start just taking the kick panel off, working over in the driver's side footwell, so that's where we'll head. Alright, over here on the driver's side, just remove the kick panel. If there is a clip, mine doesn't have one, it's broken off. There's one on the passenger side, whatever that's worth. So same setup, just kind of work this screw loose, lift up a little bit. It's a forked tongue on your kick panel. Coming in, what I'm going to do with a low battery light that just doesn't seem to die. You can see the black dots fairly easily here. 1, 2, kind of above the accelerator pedal, and 3 inboard. I think those are going to be it for this kick panel here, and if that's the case, then there's probably going to be a lot of clips again. For whatever reason, despite LMC manufacturing the top dash, the lower stuff, just nobody's repopping it yet. So we want to take our time, make sure we don't do anything stupid, get that out, and then we can move on to the steering column. I might have to go in, it's getting pretty late, but we'll get started there and see how it goes. Alright, so that came out pretty easy. There's something pretty greasy too though. I don't know if it's like a mess of cleaner or who knows what's going on in there, but pretty much everywhere that you see the red velvet, the felt, whatever you want to call it, we either had like a locating pin or a clip, and that's really all there is to it. Obviously lots of screws here, 4. Looks like there's 3 on the other side in terms of like the subdash going to the metal frame. I think there's going to be 2 Phillips screws. In fact, you can see one, and I can feel the second one coming up. I think you see it right there. To hold our hood release in place, that should just drop down, get out of our way. And at that point in time, I'm thinking we're ready to ready to hit the steering column, which is probably torque stuff. Looks to be. There's probably a couple of recesses and a giant hole we can't see as well. But anyway, we got this done. This is probably going to be a stopping point just because the battery somehow continues to last, and like I said, it's getting late. I'd rather kind of tackle the instrument cluster and everything with a fresh mind, not have to be feeling like I'm rushed or anything. So might pull that off. If we do, you didn't miss anything crazy. Now this, I might pull that out too. It's probably just those 2 Phillips screws. There's might be something in here. I'm not 100% sure. My light is covered up by the kick panel. So let's see what we've got. That actually I think is one of those clips that would release. So this probably comes out. Again, it's just been a change holder for me. But again, that's something that's not re-popped. If we can keep it intact, that is fantastic, and that's what we want to do. But that's what I'll do. You won't miss anything major. I'm just afraid the battery is going to die, because again, it's been telling me it's going to for a long time. But that's where we're at with the kick panel out of our way. So it's probably a good stopping point for tonight. We'll continue on here in the video. If it gets to be ridiculous lengths, you know, maybe we'll make a 2-part. But for now, I think we'll stick with 1 part. We'll see how it all goes. But I'm gonna wrap this up, get inside, shower, get to bed, but I might do a little bit more here, so I will catch you back as we continue on removing the dash.